All right. You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm Alana.
And I'm Kelsey.
I'm always giggling, but this time it was at Kelsey's cat, who I assume is still
So
doing his antics.
I had a drink that had a bottle cap, and
Oh,
Gordo plays fetch with bottle caps, so he is currently bringing me a bottle cap. You probably heard it clunk.
yeah, that was really good timing.
I threw
Good
it to get him out of the room because every time I unscrewed the cap on my drink, he's like, "Oh, bottle cap."
Yes,
So I threw it
he's
out of the
watching it like a
room.
hawk.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He was going in front of the webcam and trying to walk across my computer to get at the drink. So I threw it out of the room and he played with it for a second, then just ran back into the room with it in his mouth, which is always the cutest. And he jumped up onto the desk with it and dropped it. So
Ouch, my teeth. I don't want to chew on a bottle cap. Gordo.
he just holds
Weirdo.
it. He like holds his mouth like this on it and just like carries
Oh,
it
yeah.
around and it's like
Yeah,
"Meh."
that one's plastic too. I guess it's not
Yeah.
like a beer bottle.
Yeah, it's just so if you hear any sound of plastic on the desk, it's Gordo playing with the bottle cap because he's so cute.
Oh, if you're new here, Gordo is Kelsey's cat. We don't want
Yeah.
to have the same problem other podcasts have had being like, Sydney's our producer, and then it's like, oh no, but that means it's their dog.
Yeah. No, Sydney, don't poo on the carpet.
Get that bottle cap out of your mouth, Gordo. What are you doing? We give you better tools to play. Toys to play with. Oh
Let's
my god.
see. He will run out of the room if I throw it.
No. The only thing. Um, my dog is an American Akita, and they don't seem to love to play fetch. I don't know. I haven't had one yet that does. He acts a little bit like a cat, where he's like, "Oh, I'll play if I want to play.
Aw.
If you throw something
Yeah.
for me, like I'll try and do it in the yard," and he's like, he just looks at me, and I'm like, "Oh, what? Just because usually your dad just sits on the couch and just throws one of your toys down the hallway?"
Yes, that's me. Gordo brings the bottle cap and drops it, and then I just pick it up and whip it down the down the hallway.
I mean, it's a good way to, yeah, keep them entertained while you're watching TV. We're here.
Yes.
We're here with the tips.
Yep. Tips and tricks.
What do you guys do with your crazy animals? It's if we make a Facebook group, will we put things in there like, oh, it's like there's a subreddit that's like, "What's wrong with your dog?" or something. And I always think of that when my dog's being weird. He's like, "What's wrong with your dog? What's wrong with your cat?"
Oh, here it comes. What's wrong with Gordo is the fact that his mom was hairless and his dad was a rag doll. So he has a crazy, weird personality because rag dolls are supposed to be very relaxed to the point where they're called rag dolls because you pick them up and they're just supposed to be completely limp. And then
Okay. I like that. As he just frenzied
um
does none of
oh
that.
God, Gordo. Yeah, as he does none of that.
No, I just heard like
Yeah. He tried to jump up on the desk and missed.
oh no.
And kind of fell, but
Oh honey.
so rag dolls aren't even supposed to really want to even jump on furniture, I guess. When I was like looking them up, like the purebred ones
Oh my
won't
god.
play. Most of them don't need scratching posts, and they don't really even want to jump up on furniture because that's too much effort. And I was like, oh my god, I wish. Like my cat is insane. Yeah.
And his mom and dad, they came from the two different worlds, star-crossed lovers, on the
Yes.
wrong side of the tracks.
One
Like
was
two very
bald,
different
the other
types.
one had too much hair to spare, and it just
Opposites
uh,
attract.
yeah, and it created this
Yeah.
crazy, slightly cross-eyed little baby named
I mean,
Gordo.
it's like children. Okay, I only have one, so I can't make the comparison for my own how they like can grow up in the same household and be so different. But we've
Mm.
had two different Akitas, and
Yeah.
one like kind of had a bum hip, so he really didn't like to jump.
Mm.
He wasn't
Yeah.
loud. He didn't bark. He wasn't.
Oh god.
Wait, is Fenrir the alpha? I don't know, because when we got Fen, he was so tiny. And now he's
Yeah.
huge, but like he fucking barks all the time. But Sirius, our last Akita, was so chill and like
Oh
never
wow.
barked at anybody. And I don't know, you don't remember? Like he wasn't the same to like where people would come over to the house and he would just bark his ass off at them. Like no, and he
I
also
never
wouldn't
met
go
your
down the
other
stairs.
dog.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it'd been so long since I'd had him. Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah,
never met him at all.
Oh, okay. We had to put him down when he was like 5 because he got cancer. Anyway, that's a bummer.
Oh.
We don't need to talk about that. But they had very different personalities, so it's so
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Oh. Anyway, Rip Sirius. I called him Sirius Tan because he was more beige. But, named after the dog
Sirius
star
Black.
or
Yeah.
Sirius Black, anything. Yeah, it's a good dog name, we thought. Now we have Fen or Fenrir, who's named after Norse mythology, Fenrir.
Yeah. My cat was my brother's cat, and he named him after Gordon Downey from The Tragically
Right.
Hip.
He loves to
So
name after a musician.
yeah, his first cat was Dr. Dre, but we all just called him Dre. Yeah.
Which is a cute cat name. I like that, Dre.
Yeah, Dre.
Yeah.
Used to be like somebody
I
called me
mean,
Doctor.
I couldn't probably yell Dr. Dre when running after a cat in my backyard. Dr. Dre! Get down here, Dr. Dre. It's like I heard him
Yeah.
on podcast. They were like, "Oh, that cat or that dog looks like oh fuck, what's his name? Tommy Lee Jones. He's like
Oh
that
god.
older
Yeah.
actor that's like in Men in Black or whatever." He's like, "What would you say if your bulldog's name was Tommy Lee Jones? Stop licking your balls, Tommy Lee Jones." It would just be
uh,
mayhem.
yeah. I like pets with people names. It's pretty funny. My sister-in-law's
Yeah,
sister,
cute.
her husband's dog is named Douglas.
Oh.
And yeah,
Douglas, not Dougie, because
we call him Dougie. I call him
oh,
Dougie or
I
Duggo.
know a pug named Dougie, I think.
Yeah.
So that one tracks, but
I call him
Douglas, that's
Duggo or
quite
Dougie.
serious.
Um, yeah, they mostly call him Doug, but his name is Douglas.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so cute.
Douglas.
Anyway, do you have
Yeah.
any fun facts for us this week?
Not really.
Oh,
I wasn't. Well, I don't
that's all right.
know. I was like thinking, I was like, I'm sure there's things I've learned on different podcasts and stuff. And then I was like, if I didn't write it down, I might just
Mm,
forget it by the time it comes
that's
out.
me. I'm constantly learning things, but ask me something I've learned, and I can't remember. I couldn't tell you what I've learned.
I don't know. There seems to be like alien news and UFO
Yeah.
chatter and stuff that I need to brush up on. And then just before recording, we like both casually mentioned something that just seems to be going on right now that I just heard of with
Yeah.
people diving down to the Titanic wreck. And like
Yeah.
still I haven't even processed what it was or means, but Pat was like, some people went missing or something, and I was just like, what, who, where? I have to go record. What is happening?
Yeah, it's like a
I
bunch of
need to know.
millionaires. Mostly like older people, like millionaires. It's like a vacation thing. But one of the people involved,
Oh,
like his young son is like on board too, and it basically is like a little submarine that kind of goes down and you can tour the ocean floor and they kind of go around the Titanic wreckage maybe, and then they're supposed to
right,
come
like a
back
little
up.
submersible. Yeah.
Yeah, but it fits like 10ish people on it. And
Oh,
it's pretty small
kind
looking,
of
like you're
big, yeah.
probably seated
Right,
in it,
but
but
like
it's
there's
gone
one
missing.
or two person ones, and then there's like
Yeah,
submarines. So that's
this
kind of
this
like
is
in
bigger.
between.
Yeah.
Okay,
But it's not like a
that's
submarine,
crazy.
like a naval submarine or anything.
No,
Yeah.
but still, oh my
Yeah, and it
God.
like disappeared or something, and they're talking about this point, like they basically will be within hours of running out of oxygen. So if they're not found within the next couple hours, they're gonna be probably presumed dead at this point.
That's crazy.
But
That's
yeah.
that's like when you hear about people that lost in a cave or something when you
Yeah.
know where they're lost or you know where
Yes.
they're trapped or whatever, but you can't necessarily do anything. That is so scary.
Right?
Ugh!
Yeah.
Oh my
It's different
God.
than like planes going down when you have
Ugh.
like maybe you have like pinpoints where it targeted their location, but this is a pretty specific area that they probably go on in these tours. So, yeah, I don't
Very,
know.
very expensive tours. Yeah, you
Yes, it was
think
like
they would know
millionaires and like
exactly.
billionaires on board and stuff. Like it's crazy.
Ugh. Yeah, I'll tamp down the tangent, but I did listen to one the other day where it was someone couple gone missing on a not a dive tour. Well, is it a dive tour? Snorkeling. They were like there was a
Hmm.
snorkeling excursion, but this was long.
Okay.
Like this is an older case. It's weird when these things
Yeah.
are playing out in front of you. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. This one was. I was like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. They didn't get back with the group, but it didn't seem noticed at first.
Oh,
There
that's
wasn't a proper
scary.
head count done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if Pat's ever said this when you're here, but he's like got this weird paranoia that he's gonna be like lost at sea almost. Where I'm always like, that must have
Yeah.
happened to you in a previous life or something, because you're
Talked
afraid that
about
your
that
body's
with
not gonna be recovered.
yeah, him not wanting to fly over water and stuff in case the plane goes down and then he's like lost at sea and can't be properly buried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't fly a lot of places, and I've heard that from him a few times, like just with the it sucks if you can't get recovered. I'm like, yeah, but like the chances of that happening. It's
Yeah.
very specific for that to be. Anyway, we'll do another reincarnated episode where we could do
Yeah.
more specific stories where people have like those fears of like this is where
Mm.
you died in a past life or whatever. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh, super interesting. Yeah. Well, what do you got for us?
To kick off our Italian true crime or latest
Oh yes.
international true crime episode because it's been a
Oh yeah, I
few
was gonna say,
months.
welcome to the episode. No.
Pesto Parmigiano.
I did have that old Italian guy that used to chat really long to me at work, and he had like a shoe repair place. His name was like Giovanni Gioccino or something. He was really nice. Do you remember? It's like,
No.
oh
He
my
never nobody comes to insurance just to chat.
god.
It's a travel
Your
thing.
coworker, Mary, the
Well,
other girl from
people
the Maritimes from freaking Newfoundland, she had her chatters because she had those. Well, her old men were like trying to hit on her because she was of their age. But
yeah.
I just get the chatty old men, the chatty young men. I get the chatty whoever. He was really nice though. Gio, he like brought me back these earrings one time or something. I know that sounds weird,
Cute.
but he did. He was fine. He never was creepy or anything like that. Don't worry. Oh my god,
Yeah.
Gordo. Um
Okay. He's
okay.
settling in.
Is he okay? I'm
Yeah.
out of everything to drink already.
Okay. Do you want to get a drink?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Settle down, Gordo. All right. Sorry.
All right. So, adjust my pillows. Okay. So,
These pillows. No. You dirty pillows. No, that's Austin Powers.
oh my god, Gordo, I just said you were settled. Be settled, please. Please just be settled.
Oh my god.
There's nothing over there for you. Okay, just stay on this half of the desk.
Give me the finger.
I have a bit of a different one this week. We'll see.
Ooh.
This
What's not a
is
classic Kelsey case of, I don't know, darkness and twisty tragedy?
it's twisty.
Oh
And it
wait, yeah,
is
this is
tragic.
crimes, right?
Yeah,
okay,
this is
yeah,
still
yeah.
a true crime case. Somebody's still gonna die.
All right then.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
So
that we could probably figure on. I never give
yeah,
trigger warnings for that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is the case of the killing of Marta Russo.
Oh, Marta, cute
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, she was really nice. I feel like looking at her pictures, it was like that was probably so many people I hung out with in like high school. Just looked like her, like all of my friends.
Oh,
I
this is a
put some
recent
pictures on
case?
the no, like
Okay.
1997. So not
Okay.
too bad, but
Some
just
of us feel like it was yesterday in some ways, but yeah.
I was only
Exactly.
2, so I was
I know. It's the were you a 90s kid versus were you a 90s kid? Because, like,
yeah,
people ask me if I was an 80s kid. I'm like, I was born in like 88, so I don't really
yeah.
remember the 80s.
And
Yeah, exactly. I get you.
I was 5 when the 90s ended, so, like, I don't feel like a 90s kid, but there's enough early between, like, the year 2000 and 2010, there was enough, like, 90s, like, overlapping into that it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you can just look at something and be like, "Yeah, that was early 2008." Like, it's very specific.
And oh man, I just was telling you that I've been listening to those Creeps and Crimes, and they're in their early 20s, and so I was
Oh,
listening
god.
to one of them say that and they're
We're
not
born in
annoyingly
2001?
young or anything. No, they were like, women got Botox, and one of them said, and I was like,
Oh
wait, weren't
god.
you like 22? Like,
Jesus.
wait, why? Okay, anyway, I'm not putting anyone on blast. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
wow, yeah.
yeah. So there are pictures of Marta and pictures for the case in the drive. They'll be on the website too.
What?
Yeah.
And on our
So
Instagram whenever I get around to it, because I
yeah.
do that sometimes.
So the case starts on May 9th, 1997 at about 11:42 when
Oh
suddenly
wow.
yeah.
Specific.
Yeah, there's a reason for the about, but then having a specific time, but we'll get to it. Uh, a 22 caliber bullet suddenly hit this woman, Marta Russo, in the head while she's walking with a friend on their shared university grounds at the School of Law at Sapienza University of Rome. Sapienza, maybe?
So she got shot in
Yeah.
the head when she was walking with her friend?
Yeah, just out of nowhere.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
That must be
Marta,
traumatic to
yeah.
see.
Marta was shot while her and her friend were on a walkway. Some things described it as like a path, some said it was an alleyway. Based on the pictures, it kind of looks like an alleyway between two 4-story buildings. Kind of like goes in there. Like, I don't think
Oh,
you
okay.
really drive in the area, but you can. Like, it is wide enough, but it's more of a
Well,
pathway.
right. I was gonna say, I think our interpretation of an alleyway might be tainted by all like the American shows that we have to watch on TV where an alleyway is like that disgusting like piss soaked garbage strewn
Yeah.
like New
No,
York
not quite.
alleyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not always like that. Yeah. Okay,
So
interesting.
yeah, so she's just walking along this with her friend. This path or alleyway was between the university's schools of statistical sciences, the school of law, and then the political science like school, like the buildings kind of.
Okay.
And
Like on a
Marta's
campus?
friend,
Yeah.
yeah, it's right on campus.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. Marta's friend Yolanda Risi, who was with her, said that they were just kind of walking, talking about their exams, when suddenly Marta slumped to the ground and was unconscious.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, just out of nowhere. Yolanda first thought Marta had fainted, and it was only when she saw blood that was starting to come from Marta's head did Yolanda realize that she had been shot.
Wow. So like she didn't hear
Yeah.
anything then.
No, nobody really heard anything.
Weird.
Yeah. Marta was transported to a nearby hospital. Unfortunately, she never regained consciousness and ended up dying, like, was declared kind of legally dead 5 days later on May
Oh.
4th, when basically she had been in like a coma, and her family at that point just had to pull the plug. Like, she was declared, I think,
Mm,
brain dead the day before, and then they pulled the plug like 12
right.
hours later or something.
She might as well have died when the
Yeah.
shot hit her then, I guess. Okay.
Like, yeah.
Damn. So
Uh,
sad.
yeah. Marta's parents made the decision that I really like, actually. They ended up making the decision to donate, it said donate all of her organs, as they knew that this was something that she had spoken about a few years earlier with like somebody else's tragic death. It was in the news, and I
Oh.
didn't really look into it. But she really, really believed in organ donation over the few years in between that. So the family thought that would be like the best thing to do, which I think more people need to get involved with.
Oh, okay. Don't they
But
just because like here, a lot of times we ask people in Canada now if they want to be an organ
yeah,
donor when they renew their
with
driver's license. So
license.
it's pretty
Yeah,
easy to do. But yeah.
yeah. Like I myself am medically not allowed to because of the medication I'm on. Like it
Ah.
yeah, it could like none of my organs would safely be able to be used, and I'm not even allowed to like donate blood or anything. So,
Okay.
yeah. Otherwise
On
I
mine, I
definitely
just
would be.
oh yeah, I they asked me when I renewed my license one time there. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I don't know how you guys do this. It's like, and then my card just says like organ donors like checked off, I think. But then I just like wrote what is on my healthcare card. It just says like not eyes because I just like
Oh.
have my weird thing about eyeballs and was like, oh,
Oh
but
yeah.
is that horrible? Now I feel like that's
No.
kind of horrible because eyes can help people. You can have an eyeball transplant, can't you? And like literally
Yeah.
be able to see again. I don't know. It makes me feel kind of bad,
I
but then
think
I'm
there's
like, whatever.
somehow you can specify what it's, or even you can say you want your body donated to science. Just like, yeah.
Yeah. It sounds okay, but I have heard some stories that have made me question that um
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do some end of life either crimes or some sort of, you
Mm,
know, what to do with your body sort of episode because it's very
yeah.
fascinating the options you have nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Sorry.
So going from here, investigators are trying to piece together what happened. It said that no one saw who fired the fatal shot or from where, and no one had been
Wow.
spotted running from the scene, and then no weapon was discovered. So they didn't really have anything to go on.
The fuck?
Uh,
Okay.
Yeah, it was only later witnesses said that they might recall hearing a dull thud, almost like the cracking of a plastic bottle. That's what it was described as, which led
Mm.
investigators to believe that meant that possibly a silencer was used on the gun, which is
Yeah.
which would help with why it wasn't really heard.
Right. It sounds like it
Yeah.
it seemed more muffled than people
Yeah.
were used to associating with a gunshot, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So during these investigations into the shooting, the public was pretty shocked by the randomness of this crime, while investigators at the same time were complaining that the law faculty at the school was not really cooperating with them. They weren't really wanting to do interviews, answer questions, anything like that.
Whoa, okay.
And yeah, so or investigators basically said that this pointed to some fears that they may have had about bad publicity for the university, and that this was overpowering them even wanting to help catch the killer. Like they just seemed more
Oh
concerned about the
no.
reputation of the school than trying to find out who killed Marta, because clearly it was somebody on the school grounds that had been let onto the school grounds. So
Right.
yeah.
Which, like, campuses aren't necessarily closed off, gated type of
No.
situations. But it just sucks if and when someone doesn't want to be tied to an investigation because they don't want to be
Yeah.
like tainted or whatever. If
Yeah.
that's the case. Yeah. So
It seemed like
you
it
yeah.
was.
Hmm. That's too bad. A lot
Uh
of times things don't get investigated properly or reported properly, which really sucks.
yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So Marta's autopsy ended up showing that the bullet had entered her head from kind of from behind and had entered from
Okay.
behind her left ear
Oh my
where
god. Sorry,
yeah.
this is giving me like Kennedy assassination vibes with the back and to the
Oh.
left. And then like we don't
Okay.
we don't know where the shooter is. And there's a
Yeah.
whole Seinfeld episode that was the first one I
Yeah.
learned about a lot of
The
that on.
spitter and they're
Yeah,
reenacting it.
it's the spitter, exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of the shooter, it's the spitter, yeah.
The second
Uh,
spitter. That was pretty
yeah,
funny. I like
there must
that.
have been a second spitter. You
Hmm.
like spit on Kramer and what's his nuts. Newman.
Yeah.
Classic.
Um yeah, so this came from behind her left ear. When it entered her,
Okay.
I'm going to say skull, it broke into 11 fragments and caused severe
Oh,
damage. Again, she never woke
yeah.
up. She just basically, as soon as she was hit, she slumped down to the ground, was unconscious, and it was done. Like,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so the bullet trajectory that they figured out, there's kind of two of these. The bullet trajectory led investigators to the toilets on the ground floor. Specifically, they believed one of the disabled stalls. But these toilets on the ground floor were used by hundreds of people every day. And they started searching the area, and again, this led to nothing. There's no shell casing, there's no gun, there's nothing. Probably like 10 million people's fingerprints everywhere. Can't really do much.
Okay.
Uh, and a breakthrough came when forensics at the scene suddenly showed traces of gunpowder on the windowsill of a window on the second floor, and which kind of led the investigation in a totally different direction. This window was part of the room, it was a reading room and part of the legal philosophy department, and it was presumably the room that the shooter had used. So that kind of narrowed down who they were looking at, but there was no pass key or even physical key that was needed to access the building the room was in. So
Oh my god.
they still have
Almost
kind
like
of
the
a list.
JFK guy that went to the book suppository.
Yeah.
Which I guess is not a reading room, but
No.
Interesting. Weird.
Um, I want to mention that later on, a year later, in 1998, a different forensic expert actually was able to determine that this supposed gunshot residue was not gunpowder, and it was actually residual pollution. um,
What?
yeah, but this is kind of like an off thing that I wanted to mention at this point because investigators still 100% go with that being the window of the shooter and then start like placing people at that window. But if that window is not in fact where she was shot from, then there's a problem.
Oh, right. The
Yeah.
literal window. Not
Yeah.
sometimes I'm thinking window of time, time of death.
Oh no,
Right,
this is
right,
like
right, right,
literal
right.
window.
Oh my
Um
gosh.
Yeah, so if
Crazy.
this, because that's what blew the case wide open. They're like, now we know where the shooter was. There's gunshot residue or gunpowder.
Oh
And now they're
my
saying
god.
it wasn't actually, it was pollution the whole time. It wasn't actually gunpowder. Um,
What the fuck? This reeks of conspiracy.
right?
I don't
So
know.
at the same time, a different trajectory of the bullet was done with lasers, and this also led investigators to room 6. So they still did that. They still said it was room 6 on the second floor with the window. But at the same
Okay.
time, I think it's later on, it says there's 6 possible shooter locations based on trajectory, and the most likely are either that room or the bathrooms on the ground floor. Like they can't even figure out what floor she was shot from. Like, and
Okay.
the rooms are on the second floor out of these 4-story buildings. Like,
Oh.
yeah. So based on the thing of it being room 6 on the second floor, and thinking they have this gunshot or gunpowder residue, police eventually narrowed down the list of possible suspects to about 25 people, as these were the people that often use that room to read textbooks or use the computers in there. And investigators knew about what time the shooting occurred because a passerby had made the 911 call at 11:42. So they knew it had happened right about 11:42. So they know that.
Oh
That's
yeah.
when the 911.
Okay.
So that time's locked in. They know that. And they also know that at 11:44, just 2 minutes after the shooting, a call was made from room 6 to somebody. So they know people were in the
Okay.
room
Yeah, and
2
an
minutes.
outgoing call was made.
I think an outgoing, yeah.
Ah.
So with this in mind, presuming that this is the room she was shot from, they worked on determining who was in the room at the time. And with the help of Maria Chiara Lipari, who is the assistant to the head of the department, uh, so she is like most often in the room, I think. Um,
Okay.
yeah. At first, she said she couldn't remember who specifically was in the room at the time, just that people were there. And then
All right.
Maria, she ended up stating that the secretary of 45-year-old Gabriella Alito, as well as other people, were in the room. And eventually, after many grueling hours of interrogation, as well as this is where it gets so shitty because they do this multiple times, the threat of charges being brought up against herself for murder, or being an accomplice. Yeah.
Oh.
Gabriella then pointed the finger at 2 people almost a month after the shooting took place. Suddenly, she's saying, like, these people were in the room because they're basically threatening if you don't give us some names, we're going to charge you with it because you were in the room. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I don't like that.
No.
I also don't
Um,
like when Zencaster said it was reconnecting a minute ago. That made me a little
did it?
anxious.
Oh,
Yeah, I was like,
God.
ah.
I didn't notice
it
it.
it might not have shown, but it just was like reconnecting, blah blah, blah, and then It still
Mm,
says it's recording. Well,
that's good.
yeah, it still says
Yeah.
it's recording, so I don't know. Mm.
Yeah, so suddenly the secretary Gabriella is saying these two people were in the room. This is almost a month after the shooting. And she's
Okay.
stating that she remembered seeing oh, I haven't even said this guy. Giovanni Scatone. Uh
No, but I
she's
talked about a Giovanni. No.
yeah.
Anyway.
She says that she remembers seeing Scatone holding a gun by the window, and this was a statement she later retracts and says it didn't happen.
Oh. Oh
Um,
no.
so
Who
the
made her
two
retract that?
she did. She retracted it, saying that the police had basically threatened her into just saying anybody's name. So she just said these two guys' name, or technically three people's names.
Sure. But
Yeah,
yeah, did one of those guys did the guys pressure her that she named maybe? I don't know.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know. I go
Maybe
typing up these notes. I was going back and forth on whether or not I thought they were involved at all, or if
yeah.
they're completely wrong and it did come from the bathroom, in which case they have no idea who did it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of
Mystery.
kept going back and forth. I was like, I don't know what I believe in this one. That's why I was like, this will be really interesting to share with everybody. It also hasn't been covered in many things that aren't like in Italian for podcasting. It was on like one English podcast ever.
Yeah,
So,
I'd never heard of it.
yeah.
Yeah, it can be hard. Yeah, you can be listening to something and be like, "Pfft, well, clearly it's this. But the second you have to cover it yourself or have to like make an opinion, I'm like, well, I don't know.
Mm,
If I was a cop,
yeah.
would I put more store in this? Like, it's all up to you when you're trying to unravel the mystery, when you're
Yeah.
the, yeah, officer or whatever. Oh, tough.
Um, so Giovanni Scatone is 29. Salvatore Ferrero is 30. So they're the two that she mainly
Oh
points
my
at.
God.
Um,
Ferrero.
yeah, Ferrero, not Roche. Uh,
Oh, but I love that stuff.
yeah. They were junior lecturers in the legal philosophy department at the university. Uh,
Okay. Hmm.
so after the fingers were, or her finger, like pointed at them, named them, neither really had a strong alibi. Um, one of them said that they were like at home and it was corroborated for the fact that one of their sisters called the house at a specific time and he answered, but then they pointed to the fact that from that call being made at 11:30, it would take them exactly 12 minutes to walk from that house to the location of the shooting, and the shooting took place exactly 12 minutes from the when that call was confirmed to have happened at 11:30. So they're like, technically they still could have done it, but it would be like
Oh.
they would have left his house or his sister's house or whatever, walked straight there, and then like boom, shot her. Like,
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's too much math for me.
yeah, it's a little
Right
weird.
now.
So neither really had a
Yeah.
good alibi, and neither even
Okay.
actually knew the victim. Like,
Oh,
um,
what the heck?
yeah, both came were described as coming from a comfortable middle class home, and they were both really good students. Like, obviously they're junior lecturers in the legal department, like they're at least kind of like teaching assistant jobs. Oh my god, Gordo, stop. He's stretching, but he's pushing buttons on the keyboard. uh you're like changing font and adding spaces. Please stop. Please stop. Put your paws behind the computer. um Yeah. So as I said, neither had a criminal record and neither had a reason to want to target Marta. There was no ordinary motive for killing her. So investigators reviewed her like life, trying to figure out why somebody would shoot her in the head. She
Yeah.
was a former regional fencing champion.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, right.
And
Uh,
nerdy. Like, why would someone kill you for that if that was the case?
yeah. Uh, she had no past history with drug use, or like
Mhm.
alcoholism. No, she
Okay.
wasn't overly political or
Right.
religious. And it
She
was
just like
described.
walked the straight and narrow and didn't ruffle any
Yeah.
feathers.
One of the sources even said in every way she was described as painfully average. And I was like, oh. I was
Oh, I
like,
don't love those words.
yeah. It was like in her life she was average. She was an average student. And then it just kept saying average and was like, in
Ugh.
all ways she was average. I was like, oh,
I
it's
mean,
kind
we've
of
never
rude.
come up with anything good. Nowadays we just say, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm a basic bitch," right? Like
Yeah.
what is
Yeah.
wrong with us? There's nothing wrong with being a little boring.
Yeah.
It just means you're
Um,
not a super like drama queen.
Yeah, I
Oh my
personally
gosh.
think being a former regional fencing champion is pretty like fucking kick ass. So
I
I don't think that's
do too.
boring. I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
yeah, the source said she had a boyfriend at the time. The only quote I got from him was translated from like Italian to English and made
Mm.
absolutely no sense. So
Oh no.
as with a lot of the quote, I don't think I used a single quote because none of them like grammatically made even
Oh,
close to sense, or they used the wrong like pronouns, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna try and rewrite
okay.
these. So yeah.
Hmm.
um yeah, they also said like her boyfriend, there was nothing against him, they were really happy, and she had no past like angry ex-boyfriends or anything like that. She was described as just this average 22-year-old law student from a middle class suburb of Rome. And her father, Donato Russo, was a gym teacher. Her mother, Aureliana, it almost looks like Aurora, but it's not.
That sounds
Aureliana.
pretty.
Lacobani. Lacobani. She was a housewife, and then she also had a sister, Tiziana, and
Ooh.
yeah, it's like Tiziana, Tiziana, and
Tiziana.
yeah, Marta herself, sadly, had only turned 22 just a month before her tragic death, which makes me sad. Like she was so young.
Oh my gosh. So fucking
Yeah.
young.
Um, so at this point, investigators believe that the shooting, they there's no really motive. Like they can't figure out what's going on. So they shift their
Yeah.
gear to that this was some sort of intellectual challenge of attempting to commit the perfect murder, and that the people
Oh God.
involved had somehow hoped that they would not be caught as there was no direct motive between them and Marta. So like basically just kill a stranger on campus and we probably won't get caught.
Oh, okay.
So at the same time, the media was focusing that it may have been a dare, like maybe somebody was dared to shoot somebody, um, or it was some sort of like, I think it's pronounced Nietzschean. Is that like Nietzschean philosophy or whatever they do? It's like really annoying. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it's Nietzschean.
N- right. Frederick Nietzsche. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, Nietzsche, I guess. I've never seen that word
yeah.
like
I was
literally like
like,
written
I've heard
out.
it, but I haven't heard it in a while. So I was like, I don't know. But they
I
were like the
know. 'Cause
two.
I've heard people say Jungian, and I'm like, oh, you're talking about that philosopher.
Yeah. So, the two that she accused of having like shot out the window or whatever, they were technically like students. They were like learning about this. So then the media like ran with this that it was like this Nietzschean compulsion to be the Ubermensch or like Superman kind of like
Oh my
thing. That it
god,
was like that,
what?
yeah. That's just what the media did. The guys that were Like Scatone and Ferrero basically were like, no, that's not what this was, but they also deny it
Okay.
happened. So this motive was denied,
Weird.
and no proof of it was ever really found. Like there was no writing that they ever did, anything like that, talking about this type of thing. Um, so they basically, the two guys get arrested for Marta's killing, which is crazy, I think, because they don't really have anything other than like Gabriella's pointing her finger, being like, they were in the room at the
Right.
window. Um, so because this like murder was a really complex case, and with little evidence and this lack of motive for the crime, it ended up gaining a lot of media attention. They said in Italy at the time there was a lot of like mafia killings and stuff. Everything seemed to be like gang related or drug related, and this kind of shocked people because it was just a random shooting at a university, and they're like, it doesn't really happen in Italy. It's more of, sadly, more of an American thing, and it
Oh
seemed to come
my
out of
god. It
nowhere
still
with
has
like,
a motive. Sorry. It just makes me so mad. It's like
yeah,
you can't just discount that it has some connection or whatever, you
yeah,
know? You gotta investigate.
yeah.
Hmm.
um yeah, so there was a lot of media attention on it. The court proceedings were actually broadcast live on the radio as the public became really concerned for this random shooting. It even led to some parents insisting that their children wear motorcycle helmets while outside, like walking, and to only take them off if they were inside buildings, so that
What?
they wouldn't get shot in the head too. It was kind of
Oh
wild.
my god.
Yeah.
Those poor kids. They're probably
Um
traumatized.
yeah. During this time, newspapers depicted the two men as being obsessed with guns. It even went as far as saying that they had conducted a seminar for students at the university focusing on the difficulties of prosecuting a motiveless crime. Like, so they just made up
Gosh.
bullshit saying, like, they hosted a seminar saying how it's difficult to prosecute in a motiveless crime, and then they committed a motiveless
What?
crime, and we're like, but we didn't do it. It's
Oh
like, yeah,
my
no. They
god.
actually host this seminar. Both of these were fake. They're not gun obsessed. It didn't happen. But that's what the newspapers
What
were saying about them at
the?
the time.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is so insane.
Right?
I can just shake my head. That's all I can do. Like, what?
Around the time of the trial, suddenly a videotape of Gabriella, that secretary in the room 6, was released. This video was her actually being interrogated and was recorded secretly by the secret services, and it was released to the public. I don't really know how. um
Oh,
but this was pretty
okay.
shocking. Her brother-in-law was present during the interrogation, as he was actually a policeman, and he was heard on the tape telling her that she needed to accuse some suspects even though she didn't actually see the shooting take place. Like, he said that to her.
Okay.
We know you didn't see it, but you need to just accuse people. Like, we need you to say you saw people.
Oh, great. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh
The
my
tape
god.
also showed the prosecutors warning her, quote, you are guilty of murder, and quote, you will never again come out of prison. This is what they're saying to her. Um, they said this to her during a break, kind of like downtime, or intermission through part of one of the interrogations.
Yeah.
Um, Gabriella Alito was shown also on the tape, kind of in like a despairing mood. She's in tears. She's swearing up and down that she wasn't even in the reading room at the time of the killing. So, like, how would she know who exactly was in the room? And this
Okay.
video was taken just 3 days before she had signed that full declaration saying that she had seen um, Scatone and Ferrero in the room. So this video of her like swearing she wasn't even in the room was 3 days before she signed the thing. basically at one point saying like she saw them holding guns, they were playing with them by the window. So like it feels very
Okay.
like forced out of her, and like witness intimidation, that kind of stuff. Like
Wow.
um so
Okay. Sorry.
um what they ended up saying was that like during the trial that Scatone had a pistol in his hand for unknown reasons, and that he had accidentally took a shot out the window. Then
Okay.
panicking,
Sure.
right? Just playing with my gun.
Oops.
Um
Accident.
yeah. It just happens to have a silencer on it. Presumably. Which I also find weird.
Can't
Panicking,
help it.
Scatone. Yeah. Scatone and Ferrero ran away and then hid the weapon. There was also other alternate
Oh.
theories I just wanted to quickly list, but not really get into. These were
Oh
all later
yeah.
dismissed, including some sort of link to organized crime or the mafia.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so people were like, it's a hit job. She was shot in the head, like execution style, but from a distance. It was, yeah.
I
Um,
mean, she was clearly
uh,
shot, yeah.
yeah. Another theory that was later dismissed was the fact that some people on the university's cleaning crew, like the janitors basically, had passions for firearms. They had made handmade silencers and handmade shell casings.
Oh
I've
my
never really
god.
heard of that. It
Yeah,
also
no, me
said,
neither.
yeah. So I'm like, maybe that was a translation issue. Because I know you
Right?
can load gunpowder into like your own bullets. That's a thing. And then they're like,
Sure.
so I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe it's a weird translation thing about that.
Right.
It did say that they, during this line of theory, it was dismissed because none of their weapons really matched the one from the scene, which I also find confusing
Oh.
because the bullet went into 11 fragments. So how would you be able really to tell?
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless none of them were a 22 at all. Then you could like
Yeah, any of the
definitively.
fragments. Right.
Yeah. Police also at one point thought that the real target may have even been Marta's friend Yolanda that she was walking with, because
Oh.
Yolanda's father was a senior official in the prison service, and he had actually been in charge of Rome's maximum security prison. So they thought
Oh.
maybe it was a hit out on her, and Marta was just in the way, and then she had accidentally got shot, and it was kind of like revenge for
What?
Yolanda's father.
Crazy. This is craziness, if that's the case. It's like
Yeah.
soap opera.
Um, yeah. So the defense team for the two men were trying to put forward the idea that Marta wasn't shot from the second story window, that she was shot from the ground floor, presumably that bathroom area. The experts, or their experts, also criticized the ballistics report that indicated that the bullet was fired from room 6, saying that the fatal shot could have been fired from 6 other locations, and that the most likely were the 2 bathrooms on the ground floor that I kind of mentioned. Because that is the
Oh,
first
okay.
ballistics thing they did, was saying it was from the bathroom. That's why they searched there, and then it was later that they were like, it's actually from room 6.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Mm-hmm. And remember, like, they only pointed to room 6 in the first place because of that quote unquote gunpowder residue, which didn't exist in the first place. So, like, they're still focusing on room 6 when it presumably wasn't even room 6. Like, it's still
Oh
the
my
main
gosh.
thing. Yeah.
It's very
Um,
mysterious.
yeah. They brought up some sort of phone bill. I think they mean like phone call, like log or timing or something, that somehow contradicted the
Okay.
witness statements of Maria, and then indirectly the secretary, Gabriella Alito. It didn't really say what was, like, what contradicted what in this quote unquote phone bill, but just that the defense was talking about it in court.
Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe the phone calls didn't come in at the same time they said they did or
I think
something.
so, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
We can
the men,
speculate.
yeah, that's the thing. This one, like, I'm going through this, and like, there really is any of these could be fairly plausible. That's why I kind of go back and forth on
Um,
whether or not I believe they really did it. Because it's like, if they were
hmm.
in room 6, sure, but was room 6 actually where she was shot from?
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, at least for the guys, their behavior in court did not help them. Scatone was or described as appearing quite indifferent to what was happening, while Ferrero appeared to be arrogant, talkative, and preppy. Like they were kind of
Okay.
just not coming across great for the jury, I'd say.
Nobody likes a
Which,
preppy. Just kidding.
yeah. Giovanni Scatone was eventually found guilty of involuntary manslaughter because there was no premeditation that could be determined, so they didn't charge them with like first degree murder or anything like that. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So it was downgraded to manslaughter, and he was convicted based on his criminal negligence or this carelessness. Um, they kind of believed that
Right.
he was like playing with a gun and accidentally shot it out the window. So they called it like negligence and carelessness. And
What?
he was
Okay.
he was sentenced to 7 years. And Salvatore Ferrero was declared responsible for aiding and abetting Scatone. So he was given 4 years because presumably he had helped him hide the gun and like escape or something.
Yeah.
The
Crazy.
jury didn't really believe this quote perfect crime theory about like trying to commit the perfect murder, and instead they believed that Marta's shooting was just this tragic error from playing with this dangerous, it said a dangerous toy, but it was a gun, like playing with a gun.
Right.
um
Wow.
this I didn't really get into, but it did say that under Italy's Byzantine legal system, a sentence is only enforced once the defendants have exercised their right to appeal to two higher courts. And until that happens, they're not actually in custody. So it said after they were
Oh,
charged,
really?
it filed appeals, they were actually free. So they had been held in protective custody for like a year and a half between the shooting leading up to their trial. And then once they were
No.
sentenced, they were actually released from custody until they made their appeals, which I wanted to mention because
So,
I don't really understand it. It makes no sense to me. But there was even statements from her family being like, oh, now that they're sentenced for her death, now they get to walk free until they've made their appeals. And those have been denied. And then they'll go to prison or something.
that's different. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
it
what
was
we're
very
used
different.
to.
I was like, I
No.
don't get that. Um,
No.
yeah. Um, I didn't really get into it, but there was another man who had been named as being an accomplice to the two guys. He was also named by Gabriella Lolito. This was a library assistant at the school named Francesco Liparota. Liparotto? Liparota. He
Okay.
ended up going through the trial as well, all that stuff for the year and a half, and he was acquitted and then convicted of it during an appeal he made or
Okay.
somebody made, and then finally all the allegations against him ended up being dismissed. So I didn't really get
Oh
into
my
it because his
god.
were
Weird.
dismissed.
Right.
The public was kind of like me. They were left divided on whether the two men were guilty or not, and judges, politicians, and even journalists spoke out saying that Scatone and Ferrero were innocent. Um, I don't really know exactly how long the trial lasted. One thing said over a year, another thing said 6 years. I'm gonna say
Oh
probably
my
a year
god.
because six would be
Maybe
excessive.
they meant over 6 months.
Maybe,
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
Um,
Such a difference, though. It's like, oh,
yeah.
okay. 1 year? 6 years. It's one of
Well,
those.
it said they were charged in like 1998 and it happened in 1997. So I was like, that's
98.
not 6 years.
I
It's
mean,
one.
no.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Um so their
Maybe they
trial,
served a portion. Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
I don't know.
Their trial was followed by long appeals, kind of back and forth. Didn't really want to get into it. There was also investigations into possible misconduct, as I kind of talked about with the police. There was threatening of witnesses, questioning the credibility of the main witness for the prosecution, which I assume was Gabriella. They didn't say that
Okay.
though. Later,
Probably.
the criminal court of Paraguay, or Paraguay. I don't really know sure how you're supposed to pronounce
Pushes
it.
Gordo away.
Yeah.
Paraguay! Go away!
Go away!
I know, he keeps jumping on the laptop.
I know, well, he's trying to get across to, like, play with something, but I don't want him on that side of the desk, so there.
Don't worry, you guys can just excuse this episode. If we record the next part of it tomorrow, you'll just never know. It'll just be seamless. There'll be no Gordo interference. No.
Oh, there will. Last week's episode, I left so much of it
yeah.
in. There was like,
I mean, to be fair, there's
it would
always
have been
Gordo.
too difficult to edit out. So, oh my god,
It's hard sometimes. It's very true.
Fuck off.
It's like putting your toddler in the corner. She just picks him up and it's like, nope.
Just chuck him. All right. So, yeah, so there's all this stuff questioning, like, did the prosecution act appropriately? Did investigators act appropriately? All that kind of stuff. And the criminal court of Paraguay absolved the prosecutors from any of these accusations of abuse of office, as well as the threat or threat of private violence against Gabriella. So they were basically, like, all of that was just wiped clean. Like, they weren't prosecuted for anything.
Private violence. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After both filings, there was many appeals over the next few years, and in 2003, Scatone was actually given like 5 years and 4 months, and then Ferrero was given 4 years and 2 months. And yeah, so they were supposed to get, what was it, 7 and 5 years. So they're each of their things went a little bit, but they had also served a few years already, so they were basically just like re-given probably what their remainder was.
Right.
Yeah, both always maintained their innocence in it. Going into what happened later, Scatone served about a year in prison where he completed his PhD, and then about another year of house arrest. And later the court granted him a complete legal criminal rehabilitation. This, from what I could tell, it basically would protect him from any future sentences for the shooting. But that sounded very, like, double jeopardy-ish. So, I don't really know.
Okay. Not being able
like, it
to
sounded
try
like
for the same case.
Yeah.
But because he was already tried.
Yeah. And, like, he served time for it. So that kind of confused me. But yeah. Maybe Italy's a little different. In 2005, it kind of made news again because he became a high school professor of philosophy. And he had also previously had a job as a psychology teacher, but he was forced to resign following pressure from the Russo family, from Marta's family. Like, in the press, they were saying, like, all this stuff about, like, how dare you be a teacher? You shot her daughter. Like, all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like the Russo brothers, like the Marvel guys.
No. Or Daniel Russo from Cobra Kai or The Karate Kid.
Oh. Yeah, I think we were meant to watch that one, but I don't know. We watched something. I can't remember. There's a new season of Black Mirror. Apparently that's all fucked up. We'll see.
I watched Jane is Awful. Joan is Awful? Jane is Awful? I can't even remember.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was interesting. I got a little confused partway through, but then I feel like I understood it in the end. But it was fun. There's people you didn't expect to be in it. I was like, is that Michael Cera? And like fucking Salma Hayek. And
I actually kind of love Michael Cera, like from Arrested Development.
He was funny.
But yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god, too funny. Yeah. I'll have to
Um,
check it out.
yeah, I don't have much left. Just a little bit more. Um, from Wikipedia, more about Scatone said that he wrote some essays, did some translations, and even worked as a ghostwriter. And then in 2001, Scatone married a writer and scriptwriter. Um,
Ooh.
yeah. And Salvatore Ferrero, after getting out, he devoted himself to political activism and to the activity of lawyer and bookseller. It's like straight from Wikipedia. I don't really know what that means. He devoted
Okay.
himself to political activism and to the activity of lawyer and bookseller.
I'm not laughing at you right now because you can see my face. I think I can hear Gordo playing with his little bottle
Oh,
cap.
can you? Cute.
I think so.
I
I
can
just hear
hear
like,
it. I didn't know if you could.
it's kind of like that hollow, like echoey sound.
Yeah. Mommy's mad at me. I'm gonna go play in another room.
That episode of Seinfeld where they're like watching like a stage performance of some kind and like this bottle falls, it's like ding ding a ding 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 ding. It's like so loud. Wait,
Yeah,
that was Seinfeld, right? Anyway,
I think so.
I don't know. I'm glad that you've
Um,
watched some of it now. I'm excited to watch more. But yeah, uh, anyway,
yeah.
uh yeah, I am excited to hear the rest of yours, and then we'll see.
Yeah. I can't record tomorrow because I have to cut the grass. But
Okay,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah. Let's see. I just have a couple paragraphs left. The rest from Wikipedia, the little blurb said Scatone and Ferrero were also sentenced. Um, I think it means to provide civil compensation of 1 million euros to Marta Russo's parents and sister
Oh
in
wow.
2011. Um,
Okay.
don't really know how that worked, but
Some sort of
that's what
restitution.
Wikipedia said. Yeah.
Right. That's
Um, one cool thing that happened, or I guess a few cool things that happened, was Marta Russo's funeral. I don't know when exactly it happened. It seemed like it happened pretty early on when they were doing their investigations, so they may not have even known or thought they known who had done it at this time, but it was attended by more than 10,000 students, I think, of the university.
holy shit.
Yeah, it was huge. There's pictures of the crowd, like part of it with
Wow.
her coffin, and it's crazy. It looks like a concert basically.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so many people. They were joined by Prime Minister Prodi and the Italian President Oscar Luigi Scalfaro.
Oh right,
Um,
Italian Prime Minister, not our Prime Minister.
no, the Italian Prime Minister, as well as the Italian President. Um, so they
Wait a
were at her
second.
funeral.
They have both?
I don't know.
Anyway.
That could have been a translation issue from whatever source I found that in, but
Oh yeah,
um,
that's a little confusing, but then again,
yeah.
whatever. What the fuck do I know?
Um,
I know we have a prime minister.
yeah, there was also some other dignitaries that were there. Pope
Mhm.
John Paul II even sent the
Oh
family a
wow.
message of condolence. Um,
Okay.
and from what I could gather, Marta is buried in Verano Cemetery in Rome. She was granted a degree in memory from the university,
Oh.
and they ended up putting up a commemorative plaque uh, about her, I think, on one of the buildings. And then, as well as that, they named some of the classrooms in the university after her.
Huh.
Um, yeah. And in 2001, a park in Rome was named after Marta. And one thing I think is really, really cool was that her family, after her death, ended up starting the Marta Russo Foundation. which from what I could gather in the one source that briefly mentioned it, it promotes organ donation. And it said that they
Oh.
go and talk in like schools and stuff like that, but it said they go and talk in elementary schools, and I feel like that's wrong. But
Oh wow, very young. Yeah.
yeah, but some level of schooling, her
Mm-hmm.
foundation and her family will go and like speak and promote about organ donation because like Marta really cared about it.
Yeah.
And it was something she like believed in, which I think is really cool that they started that foundation for her to help that, because I feel like that helps so many people too. Like organ donation, one person's body worth of organs can change so many people's lives. So
Yeah. That's
yeah, it's
very
really
true.
cool that they did that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I have, which is crazy because like I said, I go back and forth on whether or not I believe they did it, because really it's all just the witness saying, you were in the room and I may or may not have seen you playing with a gun.
Yeah.
Like,
So that's a kind of a lot of he said, she said bullshit,
yeah.
as they say.
Like
Mm-hmm.
they have no weapon. They have
Yeah.
nothing other than a
Wow.
witness who was sounds like thoroughly interrogated and harassed and threatened with multiple people were threatened saying that they would be charged for Marta's murder if they didn't name somebody
Ugh.
else, which
That's not what you want.
no. And
I
yeah,
mean,
that's why I
yeah.
really flip flop on whether or not I believe they were ever even really involved, which is
I'm
hard.
gonna, yeah. I I feel like I feel the same, but I will also double check and double listen because I think I edit this one. So it's just like,
Yeah.
when you hear something twice, sometimes it's just a
Yeah.
little bit easier to digest. And like, yeah, that was an interesting one. I don't know. I just,
Yeah, when I was reading the notes, it was hard piecing it together because different things said slightly different things, and I feel like a lot of it was
yeah.
translation issues because like I said, only one
Oh,
podcast
yeah.
has ever really covered this in English, so most of the
Yeah, I've
sources
never
like
heard it.
auto translated. um but I feel like the
Okay.
motivelessness and like randomness of it is just so bizarre. Like nobody heard the gun, there's no weapon, nobody was running
Yeah,
away.
that was weird.
Like why
Yeah.
and who did it? And
Yeah.
almost 30 years later, like we still don't know.
Ugh.
Like,
Thanks. I
yeah.
hate it.
Yeah. I had to share it with all of you so you could hate it
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Wait, is this our unsolved? No. I think mine's solved. But we will
Yeah.
take a break and we'll get back to it and we'll see you
Yeah.
then.
Gothendag and fair greetings. I'm borrowing your ears for a second or two to talk about my true crime podcast, Crime Viking. Modern tales of true crime with your host, the Viking. Detailed examinations of cases with the odd rabbit hole thrown in for good measure. Check me out at Crime Viking on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Podcast available on Spotify, Apple, and all good podcast hosts. Part of the Darkcast network. Come, join the Oathsworn.
Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
All right, welcome back
Welcome.
to part 2 of
Italian crimes.
Italian crimes. Oh my god, yes.
It's been half a week since we recorded part 1.
But no time at all for you. So
It's been just but moments.
Yes, we have played you a promo for one of our lovely indie podcaster friends. So we're going to do that. And it's going to be, a lovely one.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very fitting for this episode. I could just feel it. Future Alana, you got this. So today I get to tell you guys all about Charles Ponzi, the father of the Ponzi scheme.
Oh. That's cool.
Yeah. Does it sound familiar?
Ponzi scheme does, but I do not know the history of that. So.
Yeah, I didn't either. I knew it sounded familiar, but also like kind of hadn't heard it in a while. And
Yeah.
I think we'll find out why. I think it's been rebranded. I have to pause for cough. Also, it's been a week and a half, however, whatever you said. And also we are joined in our studio by Fenrir, so if you hear anything, he's panting in the background.
And we're recording this together while we're in the same room.
I know, it's weird. This is something we usually do for our video mini-sodes, but
yeah.
Whatever. You can always hop on over to Patreon for more video content. Maybe we'll start doing the long episodes there someday. You never know. But we're on one mic, so forgive us. All right, so he was born March 3rd. He was born March 3rd in 1882.
Ooh, okay. That's older than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah, just like 100 years or so younger than me. Yeah. But also born in March. And it was in Lugo, Italy. So he is technically an Italian criminal. But he might not, stay just in that area. He might not keep in his lane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, he's a Pisces, and his full name is Carlo Pietro Giovanni Guglielmo Tebaldo Ponzi.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. This guy has a very long name, Charles Ponzi, as we said, but he was actually very, very short. For a man, he was pretty teeny. He's 5'2" so.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's a little shorter than me.
Yeah. And me.
I mean, so got that, what do they call it, short man syndrome? maybe a Napoleon complex. I was reading something the other day and they were joking that, oh yeah, the secret was that Napoleon always put his hand inside his pocket because he liked to hide a sandwich there. I was like, what? Who thinks of these things? And it was a fictional novel, don't worry.
Just like, this is my portrait sandwich?
Yeah. I was like, what if he did? Okay. And what he would tend to do in his scheme was he would promise clients 50% profit within like 45 days or 100% profit within 90 days. So you can see it definitely had appeal.
Yep.
Dog yawns. All right, let's get into it. Hold on to your butts, Fenrir. He didn't invent swindling, of course, or even be the first person to kind of rob Peter to pay Paul, as they say. I mean, hello. I'm sure we've all done that once or twice. But he did it so well on such a grand scale that they named this particular type of con after him. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And his ancestors had been very well-to-do, so maybe he was trying to regain some of that, family wealth. Maybe he didn't get the generational wealth, but his mother was actually given the title Donna, which is like denotes nobility. So it's kind of like if you're a duke or a duchess or something like that, okay. I guess. Yeah, apparently. A Donna, a Don. I was like, I just always thought a Don was like some kind of mafia boss.
Yeah, I've heard Don before, not Donna.
Yeah, well...
Are my parents mafia bosses?
Donna!
Donna and Don.
If you ever read the Discovery Witches book or watched the TV series of it, her name's Diana, but when they're in Italy, one of the guys starts calling her like La Bella or La Donna or something. I thought Bella is pretty, maybe.
Yeah.
Donna is woman or something. Because then you get the word prima donna.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, Belladonna.
It's all Bella. That's my D&D character. A poisonous plant.
Yeah.
I made Kelsey watch the Dungeons and Dragons movie today.
It was good.
She liked it. Oh, really nice.
It was fun. Yeah.
I like it. So yeah, his mom was a Donna. And he went to the University of Rome, La Sapienza. And on November 15th, 1903, he arrived in Boston aboard the SS Vancouver, which I thought was a fun fact because I'm pretty sure my sister sailed on an HMS Vancouver. As she told me, I believe they're normally like christened or named after where they set sail from, like where they embark from.
Disembark?
Disembark is getting off of it. Oh, I don't know. I don't speak boat.
Because I know embark is like what you're going to. You're embarking on a journey.
Right.
So disembark should be where you're leaving from.
Like where the ship first leaves port from, though. So I don't know if there's a better word for that. Ressa, help?
Where it was christened? I don't know.
Yeah, like where it set sail from.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm like,
Fenrir,
set
save
sails.
us.
Okay.
Save us, Fenrir. What's the word?
I know. Okay, so basically, yeah, I'm going to say it again. On November 15th, 1903, he arrived in Boston aboard the SS Vancouver. So, yeah. And then he arrived at that time with only $2.50 in his pocket, $2.50.
Jeez.
Having gambled his savings away during the voyage. Or some said he basically got taken in by a card sharp, so obviously he partook in some gambling and it didn't go well for him.
Not great. But $2.50 is probably still a lot in like the 1880s.
Yeah. Or no, but not in 1903 now.
1903.
Come on now.
Oh.
Don't get it twisted. Hi, buddy.
Oh.
Now I'm getting
Now you're getting the
kisses.
arm licks. That elbow tastes so good, Mom.
You guys, if we did the video, the
All
tips
you
of
can
his
see
ears
is the
are
tips
showing.
of his ears, and I am covered by a mic.
And some
You can't see me.
we might have to adjust. But we will be filming more videos soon for our Patreon. Oh, it's always a fun time. Okay, so this guy famously said, well, I don't know how famously, but they like to quote it in a lot of the articles. So, I landed in this country with $250 in cash and $1 million in hopes, and those hopes never left me. Never left me. Say, never left me.
All right, then.
So he had some odd jobs along the East Coast. He's trying to make up some money and maybe, repay his savings, I guess. He worked as a waiter and was fired for theft from that.
Sounds on brand.
Yeah. They're, if they want to get rich quick, that's usually because they're a little bit lazy, maybe.
Yeah.
They don't want to do the hard work like we do for you. He was painting signs in Florida. He's all up and down the coast. In 1907, so just a few years later, he moved to Montreal to find more opportunities, where he became an assistant teller in the newly opened Banco Zarossi, a bank on St. Jacques Street. It was owned by Italian immigrant Louis Zarossi. And it was doing well at first. It was paying 6% interest on bank deposits, which was double the going rate at this time.
Nice.
Pretty good. But then Charles was promoted to bank manager. However, the bank then started to struggle due to some bad bank loans they lent out, I guess. it was said, or I read that Zarasi started funding the payments by using money just newly deposited in accounts.
Ooh,
So
not good.
yeah. There's that Peter to pay Paul. But it is crazy what banks can do because they only have to have like, at least from different kind of conspiracy theory and different videos I've seen on like the US's bank system, how they only have to have like 10% of their what they're supposed to have of your money actually in the bank at any given time, and then they can like make loans and do whatever on the rest. And it's kind of like, oh, they get to just like play with money that they don't even have to technically
that's
keep
why
for
the
you
runs
there.
on the banks during depressions and economic crashes is so bad, and it makes the bank fail. Is because everybody's a run on the bank. Everybody's trying to withdraw all of their money, and the money's actually not there. If you think the bank has a Ziploc baggie with your 10 grand or whatever in it that says this is Kelsey's on a shelf,
physical cash,
like, fuck no, it's gone.
Oh, it's not a great.
It's all
idea.
Zeros and ones at that point, like. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the
and
runs
then
on the
they
bank
just print their own money is like.
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, our banks are not great either. We charge a shit ton of fees.
Yeah.
And they like make super tons of money on us. I don't know. I can't remember the figure because one year Pat was like, they made like $2 billion off of bank fees on us because they'd be like, oh, you want money out of your account, or you want to go to a different ATM?
Fees and
fucking give us your money.
Yeah, all because you choose to deposit money to them in the first place.
Something bounce. Fuck you, NSF fees. Yeah. Anywho, I get why people get mad and try and do these crazy things.
Yeah.
So, this bank failed, and Zarasi fled to Mexico with the majority of the bank's money.
Wow.
Yeah. So another Italian criminal, actually, possibly his inspiration. Ponzi apparently stayed on in Montreal for a time, even staying at Zarasi's house, where I assume he was helping out the family there, who I guess got left behind. I don't find much details on that part. I mean, but that's not really about him. It's about Ponzi. So he was trying to plan a return to the U.S. and to start over, but Ponzi was still penniless, basically. Especially after the bank that he'd been working for, like...
Yeah.
went under in such a way that...
got ripped off.
The owner just ran. One day, he walked into the office of a former Zarasi customer, which was a place called Canadian Warehousing. Which I'm like, Canadian Tire? What? Why do we name things like this?
So you know it's Canadian. Extra Canadian.
Yeah. So yeah, he's still in Quebec, so, you know, this time, I guess. And this place was deserted, so he just sat down and he wrote a check out to himself.
Oh, God.
Yep. Yeah, that's super fraudy.
Yeah.
He forged the signature of one Damien Fournier, the director of the company, and he made it out for the very specific amount of $423.58. Nice.
I'm sure back then was a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a very nice even number too, like, which is kind of like good because you wouldn't want it to be like 450 even. That might be more suspicious. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he said that the check was made out for on the memo line.
Yeah.
So, police eventually grew suspicious, I guess, of his large purchases, and he was arrested and even jailed there for a time. So he did some time in Canada, and then that's just the beginning of his origin story. And what is the Ponzi scheme, which we're going to get into? It's not always known by that name anymore, but it's had many names throughout the years that I've heard it by too. So, but first the Ponzi scheme, then there's the pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
That was used for a time, and now I feel like I hear it called more often the MLM, or the multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
Scheme. because
Yeah.
it's still the same thing.
It is. It's all the same thing.
Yep, she's reinvented herself, but I'm like, it just boils down the same. So basically, and I took it from a quote here, money is taken from today's investors, used to pay off debts to yesterday's investors. Typically, these investors are lured by promises of exorbitant profits, 50, even 100%. Often they are coached to recruit more investors to enrich themselves further. The problem is that there is no actual investment going on. The only activity is the shuffling of money from new investors to old ones. What's up, buddy?
I wonder how that actually works then. Like, how much money are they able to keep then if they're still trying to pay off the previous investors?
So, the end of the quote is, everything is fine until the scheme runs out of new investors and the whole house of cards comes tumbling down.
Okay.
It works until it doesn't, I guess.
Yeah.
I think maybe nowadays, maybe they're just on such a bigger scale that, like...
Yeah.
It's like every time you see someone like, oh, like there's one episode of Schitt's Creek or whatever where they start selling this high-end product.
And they're like, yeah, that came through town 2 years ago.
Exactly. We're all a, super regional manager of selling, like, I guess, it used to be like, I guess they say even Avon or whatever.
Yeah.
And nowadays you get the ones like Epicure people used to sell at our office sometimes with the fancy kitchen-y stuff and...
Yeah, I had seen it with like Avon and Tupperware.
Oh yeah,
that was a big one too.
Yeah, because that works the same, I think.
Yeah. Hi. That tickled.
Fenrir, what are you doing?
Hi, buddy. Don't try.
Oh, we're gonna have some Fenrir outtakes on this one.
You just booped me right on the nose.
Boop, boop. I know. I'm drinking something that smells so good. I'm sorry.
Like, you smell like pear.
Yeah, he loves to smell my breath. Oh, you do something fruity or minty or... Okay, lay down. Or do you want outside? Oh, okay.
Oh, Popper.
It's the third podcast. Oh, I want to take a picture. Anyway. Throughout history, this had massive repercussions. The Smithsonian article I was reading was a historical article originally posted in 1998. LOL. There's a paw on me. Okay. And it was reposted in the wake of the death of another famous grifter who was named Bernie Madoff.
Ooh, yeah, I know that name.
Okay, yeah, me too. I did also think, I was like, okay, yeah, I've heard that. Well, first they said Bernard Madoff, and I was like, what? And then I
he's a big Wall
Googled
Street
him.
guy and stuff, right?
I think so, yeah. It said he was an American financier who masterminded one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history, who was worth about $64.8 billion.
Holy crap. Okay. But was he ever really actually worth that money?
I don't know. I just know they reposted this article when he died a couple years back or something. I was like, oh, okay. Because I was like, what? And so they referenced this in it. In 1997, the collapse of dozens of Ponzi schemes in Albania sparked mass rioting that escalated into a national crisis.
Albania.
Yeah. Which has a whole Wikipedia page titled 1997 Albanian Civil Unrest.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And in New York City, investors lost a $1.5 billion when the Bennett Funding Group, I wrote the Bennett Funding Group. Group. I think that's a disease that infants get. When the Bennett Funding Group went belly up. It's very likely that Ponzi himself was probably also inspired by a man named William 520% Miller.
Oh, that's his name. My legal middle name is 520%.
Yeah, it's his parents were Elon Musk's ancestors. Your name is something 6.
Yeah, fuck.
So Will Miller was a young Brooklyn bookkeeper who in 1899, okay, so he would have been, doing this when Ponzi was a teen or whatever.
Yeah.
Fleeced gullible investors for more than $1 million. And he did some time in Sing Sing prison and took a turn down the straight and narrow and then became known as Honest Bill. So,
okay.
He had a few nicknames. I mean, sometimes I want a fun one like that, but then it's like, what do you got to do to get a nickname like 520%? Then you have to go and do whatever it takes to become known as Honest Bill again. Just days before the, spoiler alert, original Ponzi scheme fell apart, Honest Bill was quoted as saying, "I may be rather dense, but I cannot understand how Ponzi could make so much money in so short a time." So yes, Charles Ponzi had plenty of finesse and chutzpah, and who really needs real business plans with that dynamic combo? He probably could have been a cult leader. He could con anyone he met, basically from Italian immigrants to cops to politicians and even a priest. Oh, and I think I briefly mentioned his first little bit of backstory. Sorry, the backstory. But he had claimed to have attended the University of Rome, but as he put it, "In my college days, I was what you would call here a spendthrift. That is, I had arrived at a precarious period in a young man's life when spending money seemed the most attractive thing on earth."
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Spendthrift?
Oh.
Never heard that before.
Oh, no.
No.
Spending money here, spending money there. So back to what he was doing after his time in Quebec, he moved back to Boston in 1917, and there answered an ad for a clerk wanted, placed in the newspaper by a merchandising broker named J.R. Poole. And in Boston, he met a young woman named Rose Necco. I think the G is silent because it's kind of spelled like gnocchi.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know.
Necco,
sure.
I just said the same thing again. Anyway, on a streetcar named Desire. No, but on a streetcar. There they fell in love, and the petite Rose was practically swept off her feet by the sophisticated older gentleman. And Rose and Charles married in February of 1918. Cute old-timey names.
Yeah.
He then took over Rose's father's grocery business and bungled that all up. He's great at that. He went to the bank to try and get a loan. I mean, he used to work at a bank. He probably thought, this is going to be easy peasy. And he had himself an idea for a business venture, which was an international trade journal. But his request for $2,000 was promptly denied by the Hanover Trust Company. Rejected. Which sounds like not even that much now, too.
Yeah.
So he went back to his office on School Street to plan his next move. And then flash forward to August of 1919, a couple years later. He's opening his mail one day when he opens an envelope and a light bulb goes off in his head? Over his head? I don't know.
Something.
Yeah. The envelope contained a tiny scrap of square paper that excited him. Sorry.
It was a picture of boobs.
And I was like, excited Ponzi. And then I was like, oh, I don't know. I just stumbled. Yeah, it made him
excited.
He was thinking now, thinking hard. It was an international postal reply coupon. So,
okay.
Almost like you get something now and they give you a pre-stamped addressed envelope.
Like
so
a You can mail back.
You can mail it back.
Okay.
It's to help mail it back because it pays for the postage.
Okay.
And it said that the coupon was purchased in a Spanish post office for 30 centavos. It could be exchanged for a U.S. postage stamp worth 5 cents, a redemption rate that was fixed by international treaty. But the Spanish peseta, Ponzi knew, had fallen recently in relation to the dollar. So theoretically, someone who bought a postal reply coupon in Spain could redeem it in the United States for about a 10% profit. Because of the exchange rate, I guess.
Jesus. Okay.
Sorry, yeah, this is a long kind of quote I took. Purchasing coupons in countries with weaker economies could increase that margin substantially, he reasoned. It should be possible then to make a financial killing by buying huge quantities of these coupons in certain overseas countries and redeeming them in countries with stronger currencies.
But they're not going to hand you the money. You're still just getting a prepaid envelope, aren't you?
It's just a coupon that you have. Yeah. I don't know who's cashing in coupons at any.
Like, they're not handing you money. Like, you're still getting a prepaid envelope. It's just worth more in the U.S. than there.
I think so, yes,
so
exactly.
how is that making a profit? Unless he's then selling prepaid envelopes to people? Is that what he's going to do? Maybe? Fuck. Sounds like so much work. I hate it.
And this is basically the biggest explanation I could find for it. Because it's like you said, it's a whole thing that's like not gonna last in the end. But yeah, I don't even know how he was convincing people other than the rest of that was like Ponzi called his new business the Securities Exchange Company and set out to promote his idea.
Of prepaid envelopes.
See, these things are worth that much, but you know how much they're worth there? It's gold, Jerry, gold!
Just like fucking... Oh my god, what show is it? Fuck, what was it? Like Good Girls or something? They buy...
Oh, yeah.
No, not Good Girls.
Watch that
the mom show with...
Oh. That one was about moms. Good Girls was.
Yeah, but this one was just called Mom, and it was...
Oh, with Allison Janney.
Yeah, I never remember her name.
Oh, yeah, and Anna Faris.
Yes, those two, and they buy maple syrup in the U.S. or something, or take it to fucking Canada, or vice versa. So stupid.
Right? Yeah, there's a whole stupid maple syrup heist or scam or whatever. It was a long con too. Yeah, that shit's worth some money then.
Like, oh my god.
There's rules.
Don't get between me and my Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, it's big money for like out east Quebec.
Yeah.
Like then I think for like Vermont and New Hampshire area, that kind of region. But yeah, Charles Ponzi was just giving his spiel and people were just eating it up for some reason.
Jeez.
He told them he had a network of agents in Europe just buying up the postal reply coupons in bulk. He made it sound good. He had no details about the finer points and he would be evasive and kind of cry, trade secret or something like, can't tell ya.
Sounds right.
KFC, it's the secret herbs and spices.
11 of them. 11 secret spices.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I just always think of the Afro Man song. I'm giving my secret blend herbs and spices. Colt 45 266. Oh, God. He also kept up appearances of wealth, rushing off from fancy social gatherings to meet with his various clients around town. Gotta go. And he hired agents who were trained by Ponzi and got a cut for bringing in new blood, new investors. So this is the start of that kind of outsourcing. Yeah. The agents would get 10% of the new investors' cash that bought in, and then like sub-agents, any sub-agents that they would hire would get 5%.
I was just going to say 5.
Yep. was like, get someone else to do the work. To his credit, he paid back the first round of investors, and people were starting to take notice, and then they wanted in. And they're like, it's working. And some people reinvested right away. Just, he paid them back, and they were like, no, again. And so it kind of saved him some on interest payments, too, because he could just roll it back into,
Yeah.
I guess, the next round. I don't know. Yeah, I don't always understand how it functions. At one point, though, he had offices kind of across the East Coast, at least from Maine to New Jersey. At first,
Okay.
I said, oh, it was across America. And then I was like, no, you literally wrote Maine to New Jersey. So that's like across the East Coast a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's growing. So then a man named Joseph Daniel filed a lawsuit against him for $1 million. He said Ponzi owed him money, so he's entitled to some of Ponzi's earnings. And it didn't help that around this time, the paper started printing stories about his net worth. Yeah, he did swindle a shit ton, like, over his career, like, but on July 24th, 1920, the Boston Post ran a front page feature with the headline, "Doubles the money within 3 months, 50% interest paid in 45 days by Ponzi. Has thousands of investors." It's a really long headline.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah. It stated his worth at $8.5 million.
Holy. That's a lot back then, too.
Right?
That's crazy.
It's like he's getting Bezos money now.
Yeah.
He had a 12-room mansion in Lexington, servants, various vehicles, including a custom-built limo, and luxury clothes and accessories like diamonds for Rose and a gold-handled Malacca cane.
Okay. That's
Fancy. I don't know.
sounds nice.
I know. I feel like it had a fancy eagle on the handle or something.
Yeah.
Can't just be gold tipped. He bought out his old boss, Poole. I guess that he entered the ad for or whatever. And he just was saying, like, but the more I buy, the more I want to buy. Can't get enough.
Yeah.
But what he really wanted was to get back at the first bank that rejected him. That was Hanover Trust. He had managed to arrange a takeover of the bank, so if he went down, so would the bank. So, like, he owns it now, I guess. So 2 days after the article ran, they were lined up outside Ponzi's door, all these would-be investors, and they stretched all the way back to City Hall. So
okay.
it was apparently pretty good for him at first.
Yeah. Then there's probably just too many people, and then suddenly too many people want to be paid back in 45 days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they said, it's sort of a house of cards. To them, he later wrote, "I was a wizard who could turn a pauper into a millionaire overnight."
But did you? Did you actually?
Yeah, right.
I don't
Yeah,
think
were you
he
worth...
actually did.
Yeah.
I don't think he made anybody other than himself rich.
Yeah, and was he worth $8.5 million? No.
Yeah. Theoretically, probably.
Mm.
With like a line of credit and like loans, but not actually what he physically had in cash.
Yeah. If all my investors paid me.
Yeah, that's like assets. It's like counting your assets, not what you actually have.
The next week, the U.S. Post Office Department announced new conversion rates for international postal reply coupons.
I think so.
Okay. But officials insisted it had nothing to do with Ponzi's scheme, and they claimed that what he said he was doing wasn't even possible anyway.
Fuck. Jeez.
He's not making money off this, you guys. He's making money off you. And just as soon as his business was booming, it went bust. There were 3 ongoing investigations into him by the police, the Boston Post, that being the paper, and the post office. The U.S. Post Office. At the advice of his agent, former newspaperman William McMasters, Ponzi opted to cooperate with the DA's office and opened his books up to the government audit that they wanted to do. So, it's gonna go downhill. By the end of the day on July 26th, shit was going south, and he was declining any new investments at that time and would do so until the audit was complete. So that was kind of nice of him. He was like, well, don't bother. So quickly the tables turned when people heard he was being investigated, and now it was hundreds lining up to get refunds on their investment vouchers. He instructed his clerks to pay everyone back who requested it, and in one day he paid out more than $1 million.
Jeez.
$1 million. Dr. Evil. He apparently, it said, kept playing both sides, which I guess meant like being buddy-buddy with like the police, but also the papers and whatever. Everyone's investigating you, bud. Like,
yeah, it's confusing.
We all know what's going down. I like this though. He even ordered sandwiches and coffee for the mob outside of his office. And then like moved the women to the front of the line when he heard some people had fainted in the heat.
Oh my gosh.
The waiting. I was like, sandwiches. And it said some of them booed him and some of them cheered him. And I was like, oh, okay. They don't even know.
I feel like, just give me back my fucking money. I don't want your sandwich.
Yeah. What kind of sandwich, though?
Just spending my money on buying everybody a sandwich. Like,
pizza for all. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Some of them left the line without getting their refund. They changed their minds, I guess.
We just waited too long.
Yeah, maybe. They didn't get a fucking sandwich. The papers were then saying he was $4 million in debt, and he threatened to sue them this time. Like, shut the fuck up!
I'm gonna get money out of you now.
Yeah, first I'm worth $8 million. Now
I'm negative 4.
Original trial by media. Then on August 10th, he's invited to this luncheon at the Hotel Bellevue to give a speech and also face off against a second guest speaker. This man was a mind reader named Joseph Duniger. Or Duniger. Yeah.
That's so weird. A mind reader.
What, you weren't expecting that? Neither was I.
I was like,
The shit they used to do for fun back in the day.
Let's bring this guy that's like caused a financial crisis and make him answer questions by a mind reader.
Maybe we'll have a seance. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, he was supposed to throw the X-ray of clairvoyance on the subtle brain of the little Italian and reveal what he found to the audience.
Jeez. Okay.
Or pick his brain, maybe? I don't know. But it ended up being no contest, literally, as he was still taking questions from the audience at 2:45. He being Ponzi, because everyone was just grilling him.
Oh.
By the next day, August 11th, it comes out in the Post that he had been jailed in Montreal, and they posted his mugshot. Yeah, and that. Oh yeah, by the way, he'd also done time in Atlanta for smuggling 5 Italians from Canada to the U.S. From Canada to the U.S.?
That's fun.
All right. And by August 12th, he's found $3 million in the red. They were close. $3 million owing by the auditors when they finished. So he is arrested as he cannot hope to pay this back. And up to 6 banks would then crash following his arrest.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. His quote-unquote note holders got 30 cents on the dollar, many holding on to them instead, still hoping Ponzi would cash them in, I guess, for full value? After he gets out of jail, he's bound to pay us back.
Oh my god.
And then the Boston Post won a Pulitzer Prize for their journalism and coverage of the case. He was convicted on charges of mail fraud, sentenced to 5 years, and served 3.5. So he didn't get that long, really.
No.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still pretty crazy. Then in 1925, he was convicted on state fraud charges. Oh yeah, he doesn't exactly stop. Out on bail while that verdict was under appeal, he went to Florida.
Oh god.
Why for? Why, to sell swampland under the pseudonym of Charpon.
Fuck. Jesus.
Charpon, maybe? You want to buy some swampland?
Yeah, oh my god.
I had a trench coat with just the baby alligator in it. I don't know. What the fuck?
A leaf.
Yeah.
Wanna buy a leaf? Hey kid, you wanna buy a leaf?
Then he was quickly arrested and convicted of fraud. He jumped bail when he learned that the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts had upheld his conviction in that state. With authorities in 2 states in pursuit, Ponzi fled to Texas.
Oh god. Now he's in Texas.
My mom one time driving in Maine, which is just next door to New Brunswick where we grew up, is just like had a taillight out. They pulled her over. She goes, "I'm a wanted woman in Maine. I can't go back."
Oh god.
Anyway, I'm sure the statute of limitations is out on that, Mom. You're good. He signed aboard as a seaman on an Italian freighter, but was captured in New Orleans?
What? It's just so weird. I don't even know what's happening anymore.
I know, like, it's the first chapter in his criminal career. Ponzi was returned to Massachusetts to begin his sentence at the state prison in Charlestown. That was 1925. Now, out again in 1934, he was balding and 40 pounds fatter.
And still 5'2".
I'm like, oh, I feel you, buddy. But no. Oh yeah, they were just waiting on hand outside of the prison to deport him back to Italy as an undesirable alien.
Oh, I don't agree with the use of alien, but yes, he's undesirable. Send him back to Italy.
He's no Akon, but was that from our that one ended up on our Patreon, right? Yeah, it's an alien love story.
Something.
Alien baby daddy.
It's an alien romance.
Oh,
slow burn romance.
Yeah. And then I listened to a case where like the guy's name was like David or something, and he had really similar experiences to Elizabeth Clare.
Did he also carry a baby? Alien baby?
He also had alien encounters. I can't remember right now.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have to do that one. Because, oh man. Love a good alien deep dive. But Rose has, speaking of romances, Rose has had enough with Charles's shit.
Good for her.
Because he's been deported, and she was like, I'm going to stay until you can find a job there in Italy. But he never got a job, so she divorced his ass.
Yes. Good for her.
Yeah, a lot of people were like, oh, you're probably in on it. But, like, no, she and her relatives had loaned him a combined $16,000.
Jeez, that's a lot back then.
Yeah, exactly. So she remarried and relocated to Florida. And after that, reports vary on what happened to him. The short version one is that he gets a high-ranking ministry job in finance.
Seems unlikely.
And version 2 is that he dabbled and had like an airline job and then became a teacher.
That's an airline job.
Yeah, okay, it said, quote, according to one version, he talked his way into a high-ranking financial ministry job in Mussolini's government. Remember that Mussolini? He's a dictator, dude. I just know that Cher was in that movie, Tea with Mussolini, because I love Cher.
Uh-huh. I didn't see that one.
I don't think it's great. I might have an old DVD with it, but... when officials realized that he was not the financial genius he purported to be, he fled carrying 2 suitcases stuffed with cash and caught a steamer to Brazil. That kind of tracks.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I mentioned him, but the author named Dunn, last name Dunn, who's done the most extensive research on Ponzi, uncovered a different story. He reports that Ponzi got help from his second cousin, Colonel Attilio Biseo of the Italian Air Force, who was commander of the Green Mice Squadron. Literally always read over my quotes now, but didn't remember the Green Mice name part. Kind of must have skimmed it a little.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Yeah.
Green mice. Yeah, the green mice. The mice are green.
Green Mice? Grey Worm? No, Game of Thrones. Green Mice Squadron and a friend of Mussolini's. Oh yeah, commander of the Green Mice Squadron and a friend of Mussolini's. Biseo landed Ponzi a job with a fledgling airline doing business between Italy and Brazil. This new career kept Ponzi in high style between 1939 and December 1941, when the United States entered World War II and the Brazilian government cut off supplies to Ponzi's airline, having learned that it was ferrying strategic supplies to Italy. Oh. Yeah, where were they in that whole conflict? I can't remember now with Italy.
I don't know. I'm terrible at any of the world wars. I don't know.
Well, because Germany had two allies. It was Japan and maybe Italy? What was the Axis powers? Pause. Okay, so yeah, they were allied. God, for lack of a better word, with the with Germany and the Axis powers. Okay, yeah, Italy was, but Germany is still the one that gets the most shit on for World War II, of course. Out of a job, Ponzi scraped by teaching English and French and later working as an interpreter for an Italian importing firm, according to Dunn. But his eyesight was failing and a stroke in early 1948 left him partially paralyzed. Ponzi died in a charity hospital in Rio de Janeiro on January 18th, 1949. Almost your birthday.
Yeah. But like...
Or, did I say 1849? January 18th, 1949.
Yeah, you said 1949.
Okay. Leaving $75 to pay for his burial. A book by... Oh. That's where I had it. Right at the end where it doesn't make sense because I didn't know. A book by Donald H. Dunn called Ponzi, the Boston Swindler analyzed his schemes and concluded that Ponzi was more of a psychological and people-reading genius. My words, clearly. Rather than a financial genius. More of like a master manipulator or sort of salesman extraordinaire.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely a con man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a murderer. I stayed away. Because I was like, ooh, Ponzi scheme. I've heard of this.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was. And I remember when I used to bartend, we used to get, because it was in a hotel, right? So we used to get groups that came in. Yeah, we had I don't remember what they were called, but they were definitely an MLM or like whatever. Yeah. And they'd have their little meetings in the little banquet room.
Oh, God.
And they'd come back to the bar after. And yeah, a lot of them were really pretty cheap and stuff like that. And they'd come and order drinks or whatever. And some of them would try to like talk to you about it. And you're like, you can't try and sell me on shit. I'm working. Like,
oh, it's awful.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. I hate all those jobs where you're like trying to sell something and
yes. That's one thing I like about my job is we aren't ever expected to try and get somebody to buy something, talk them into it, upsell really. Like that's just not part of it. And your job performance isn't based on you being able to do that.
Yeah, because sometimes they pressure
I've had that before. I've had that in some of my, well, basically all my other jobs. That was some part of it. You were expected, and that was part of like your performance review based on how well you could upsell people.
Yes.
And
things they might not need, or oh, you look so good.
Yeah.
But not based on like what you said about some of the guys that worked there earlier. They was like, wait, I'm sorry, you're buying that shirt, kind of.
Yeah.
Thing. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, you obviously don't work on commission.
Yeah.
That's like on Schitt's Creek. Oh, that's a second Schitt's Creek reference. I know, but he tries to get the job, and then he's at the blouse barn, and
yes.
It's like, what's that? Are these hoary or? Oh, too funny.
Yeah, I need to rewatch that whole show.
Oh,
so good.
So good. they were blaming me for The Office the other day, and I said, "Oh yes, I got you guys into that, but that's because Kelsey got me into that." Any hoozle, we're gonna go have some more hang time, and we'll see you guys next week for another crazy episode that's on some more mysterious, less crimey things.
Yeah.
Maybe some. I guess what it's got in common is there'll still be some numbers.
Yeah. All the numbers.
I thought I had in here somewhere the number of like, I don't know. He definitely swindled like Canadians and Americans out of like maybe $1 million or something. It was a lot for the time.
Yeah.
Altogether, it was like, whoa, crazy.
Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Sorry if you had trouble seeing what was it, last week's episode. It was just
Good pods.
Yeah, I was made aware there was an issue where it wasn't like appearing on people's feeds on Good Pods. So thank you, Daniel, for letting me know. And then I was able to just go on there and hit update on my episode list, and then I could see it. So then I was trying to tell people, just go hit update. Maybe your latest episode hasn't appeared on everyone's feed on this app.
Yeah.
Weird, but whatever. And yeah, stay tuned. We have some fun stuff coming for you. I know July through Darkcast, there's going to have like a fun kind of collab episode where we'll be telling a story each by ourselves.
Yeah, by ourselves, because our segments have to be too short. We can't allow any banter, so we're recording completely separately.
Yeah, because we couldn't do it with banter under 15 minutes. That would be too hard.
So we can barely do without banter an hour each.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's really cool. And then you'll get to hear some of the other cool podcasters from the Darkcast network. So stay tuned for that. I know that's coming like sometime in July.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe August will be a little different too. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
My dog is barking.
I think the party next door is ending, so.
Oh yeah, it's a really nice day out here where we've had like so much rain.
Yeah, we're gonna go have a fire in the backyard and eat some s'mores.
Fuck yeah. So happy summer night to you all. And keep it cryptic.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, he looks so pouty. Hi. I'm getting my chapstick, buddy. Okay. Leave everything alone while I'm gone.
Which is, I was like, oh, Albania, that's near Serbia. I know that, like, because Pat, when he served, it wasn't Afghanistan or whatever. He was in the pause for dog. Pat did a tour with, it was like the Kosovo War, so it's all in that region.
Oh,
Serbia,
I
Albania.
think he's over it. Oh, no.
What are you doing?
Fenway, are you over it? You over being a pod dog?
No, it's like, I was listening to the Creeps and Crimes, and they'd be like, they talked about their friend Nikki, and they're like, oh yeah, Nikki's right here. Hi, say hi, Nikki. Hi. I'm like, your friend's just like laying in the room while you guys record. You guys are so, yeah, like BFFs in your like 20s.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? You want out? Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
It's like, well, you guys aren't really doing anything.
You don't want to pay attention to me.
I can't. Yeah.
You're responding to my headbuds.
I know, and he was pawing me like.
Yeah, mom.
I get it, but when you're not here, he doesn't act like Gordo.
No! This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.